kids, we're starting a new unit, and it is on inheritance and variation of traits. We're going to be covering these 4 topics. We're going to go really more in detail about this later on. Today is just going to be a quick overview. There's a lot of new vocabulary in here, so I'll take it kind of slow, but I do expect that you are taking notes and studying a couple times a week because this vocabulary should all, for the most part, be new words for you guys. So we're going to be studying about something called Mendelian genetics, which is based off of Mendel. We're going to be talking about how to use Punnett squares, which is a really easy or simplified, I should say, math tool where you're predicting the probability of what the offspring traits could be. So we might say if we cross a rabbit with brown fur and a rabbit with white fur, what probability will the offspring have of having white fur? And we'll talk about that. And then we'll do some test crosses based on those Punnett squares. And then we'll talk very quickly about a couple genetic mutations. You could probably spend a whole year studying genetic mutations in college. So we will just be scratching the surface. All right, so before we get into Mendelian genetics, which will be later, not today, I'm just going to go over some review stuff just to introduce this. So we're only going to be doing slides 1 through 17 today. So first of all, let's talk about this word heredity. Heredity is basically something that talks about how traits are passed down from parents to offspring. So I'm sure you've noticed before that siblings sometimes can look alike or children can look like their parents, and that's based on this word heredity. So are children ever identical to their parents? You may have thought about why do some people look more like their dad and some people look more like their mom? How do I get those traits from my parents? And then why are some people born with birth defects or inherited diseases? All right, so first we have to talk about these 2 words, genetics and heredity. And I want you to write down these definitions. So I am going to show you the definitions. Please copy them down. So heredity is a branch of biology that studies genes. Genetics is a branch of biology that studies genes, heredity, and variation of organisms. Heredity is the passing of traits from parent to offspring. So genetics is the study of heredity, basically, and it's how traits are passed from the parent to offspring. Pause this if you need to finish writing these definitions down, and then hit play when you're ready. All right, so this year and last year we mentioned the parts of the cell, and then there's these 2 words, mitosis and meiosis. I'm going to quickly talk about them today, and then we're going to do some practice with these 2 words because it's, I think, something you haven't learned before. And then we're going to talk about how these processes help organisms live and reproduce. So I realize that you've never heard these 2 words before, so please start studying those today and tomorrow. So let's talk about these words. Basically, mitosis, and write this down. Mitosis is the process of how when our cells divide to make new cells. Mitosis helps us to grow and it helps us to repair ourselves if we get injured. Mitosis happens in every single cell in our body. It stops happening in our brain and spinal cord. And that's why if you have like a brain injury, as of right now, your body can't repair itself. But mitosis happens everywhere in our body. It starts at when you were first one cell, and that one cell divided into 2 cells, and those 2 cells divided into 4 cells, and so on and so on. As you were growing and becoming an embryo, that was mitosis that had that happen. When you were an infant and you turned into a toddler and new cells had to divide and to change and to help you grow, mitosis helped that happen. Last week, I cut my finger and it's starting to heal. Mitosis helped that happen. So mitosis helps us to grow and it helps us to repair our body cells. Another word for body cells we're going to see on a later slide is called somatic cells, somatic. So that happens there. All right, meiosis. This one we'll talk about later. Meiosis is how our body make sex cells, which are either, for us, it's either sperm or egg. if we were talking about plants, it would be like pollen or the seed, the ovary, that becomes that fertilized seed inside of a plant. So meiosis only occurs in the part of the plant that makes pollen, or the part of the plant that makes that ovary, or in humans, it only occurs in their body that makes the egg and the sperm. What is this? All right. Here's my hint, and write this down. The way I want you to remember the difference between mitosis and meiosis is my little trick here. When I hear the word mitosis, I hear the word toe. Toe is part of my body. Mitosis makes body cells. When I look at the word meiosis, I see the word me in it. Me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for a sperm and an egg. I know that's weird, but it's true. Meiosis makes sperm and egg. Those are my hints. Remember that. All right, so let's talk about mitosis. In this little video, there is or slideshow, there should be a little animation. Make sure you guys can see it. Just give me a second for it to load. Come on. Okay, and we can see here, it starts as one cell and eventually becomes two cells. And these two cells divide, and we can see two new cells form. So mitosis starts as one cell. What happens before it divides is that all of the DNA reproduces or duplicates, and then it forms two new cells. And then because the DNA replicate it, the DNA inside the two daughter cells is exactly the same as what was inside the parent cell. So we have two new daughter cells that are exactly the same as the one parent cell that we started off with. Again, we'll go in much more detail about this later. Okay, that's just the cells dividing and bringing the DNA in the form of chromosomes to either side. Now, meiosis, this animation doesn't work, but I promise you later on, not today, I will show you more stuff on meiosis. I just don't want to overwhelm you in the beginning. Okay. So meiosis occurs in all animals that reproduce meaning sexually with two parents. Okay. So not all living things reproduce sexually. So for instance, like a bacteria cell can reproduce just by splitting. It's called binary fission, and its offspring are clones. It only has one parent. But when we're talking about sperm and egg, we're talking about sexual reproduction. And meiosis is when the cell splits into two and the two individual cells duplicate. And this means that after meiosis, the sex cells, the sperm and the egg, have half the DNA of the normal body cell. So a human cell has 23 pairs of chromosomes. And then after meiosis, the sperm or the egg will only have half of that. So 23 pairs is the same as 46 chromosomes. So in our body cells, every single cell in your body has 46 chromosomes, except for sperm and egg. They have 23 chromosomes. Okay? Sometimes we say all of our body cells have 23 pair, and the reason why we say that is because we have half from mom and half from dad, and they pair up. But it's a total of 46. And then our sperm cells and our egg cells only have 23 chromosomes. Again, this is a lot. Write it down, review it, and we'll talk more about it in a next class. This Venn diagram, copy it if you don't have a printout of this. This is another way to help you remember the difference. And again, we're going to go into more detail, but mitosis has 4 stages. Meiosis has 8. Mitosis happens in the body cells, which are called somatic cells. Meiosis happens in the germ cells, like the ovary or the testes. They're making sex cells. In meiosis, we're making 4 cells. In mitosis, we're only making 2 because it has half the number of divisions. In mitosis, the chromosome number stays the same. So if we start with 46, we end with 46. In meiosis, it's half. So if we start with 46 chromosomes, we end up with 23. And in mitosis, everything should be identical at the end. In meiosis, there's going to be a genetic variation because we're causing this division, where there's only going to be 23 chromosomes. And then they combine with 23 chromosomes from another organism, and then that's where we have that genetic variation. All right. For today, these are only the questions that you need to know. I know I just gave you a ton of information, and not everything is explained, but that's okay because we will go more into detail. This is just an introduction. But you should know these next couple questions. Where is all the genetic information found in a cell? Is it found in the nucleus, the cytoplasm, the cell membrane, or the mitochondria? The answer is nucleus. So all our DNA is found in our nucleus. Please make sure you write that down. You need to know that. 2, true or false? The process of creating new cells from existing cells is called mitosis. True. 3, the purpose of mitosis is, remember, mitose, body. Is it to help us grow? Is it to help us repair? Is it both A and B, or is it neither A or B? The answer is both A and B. The purpose of mitosis is to help us grow and repair damaged tissue. All right. So if we have 23 pairs of chromosomes, which we do, which means we have 46 chromosomes total, how many chromosomes will we have in each daughter cell after mitosis? Remember, mitosis makes identical cells. So the answer should be 23 pair or 46 chromosomes. I'm going to pull the answer over so you can see. We should have 46 total chromosomes. I'm going to say, or 23 pair. Okay, question 6. Meiosis leads to, now remember, me, what are you supposed to be thinking, sperm or egg? What does meiosis lead to? 4 offspring cell, genetic variation, cloning, both A and B, or A, B, and C? And the answer is going to be D. Both A and B are true. Meiosis leads to 4 offspring cell because it's 2 sets of divisions, and it will eventually lead to genetic variation. So both A and B are true. 7. After meiosis, the number of chromosomes is the same in the parent and offspring cell. And that is false. Remember, it's going to be half. Okay, it's half. And that's your last slide for today. Okay, I know it's a lot. So try to review your notes. You might even want to listen to this lovely presentation again. There will be an exit slip after you study a little bit. Good luck.